everybody. If you're feeling good, say yeah. Yeah. If you're feeling really good, say heck yeah. Heck yeah. It's really good to be here. I want to say a very quick thank you to Amanda and Amy for inviting me out. Thank you so much. My name's Adam, and I'm going to tell you about the time that I had the hugest crush on a professional fire breather. Her name is Rebecca. She has long, jet black hair, and sometimes she snorts when she laughs. That's my favorite thing ever. When I close my eyes and picture her, I see huge hoop earrings and a vintage rock and roll t-shirt and sass-slinging cowboy boots that she somehow wore unironically. But to be honest, most of the time that I saw her, she was wearing a denim work shirt and khaki pants that had prime rib au jus still all over them. We met when we were both working at a steakhouse in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Bowling Green's famous for a few things. We had an infamous massacre that never happened. Kellyanne Conway told us about that. The 1-year anniversary was just a couple weeks ago, and no one commemorated it, and I don't know why. Bowling Green's also famous for bands. We lived there during a really exciting time when bands like Cage the Elephant and the Nappy Roots and Sleeper Agent were breaking out of these little dive bars in Bowling Green onto this national stage, and that was really cool to see. But Bowling Green's also famous because it is a college town that has one of the highest percentages of restaurants per capita. And we were there as humble servants, and you know, when you work there, we just like automatically smelled like hickory for years. And so Rebecca and I met at that time at a steakhouse. What I remember about Rebecca is that she could win any argument by just saying, "You are." And it would go something like, "You are being really childish right now." "You are." "That doesn't even make any sense." "You are." I'd lose every argument. One time we got into a tiff by the hot food counter when she was expediting. I said something like, "Rebecca, the world does not revolve around you, dude." And she just looked at me plain faced and said, "You're young. You'll learn." When we would debate about our favorite bands and hip-hop artists from the 90s, she would shut down every conversation declaring that PJ Harvey was the greatest musician of that time. I'm sorry for describing this person through pop cultural references, but I'm a poet who doesn't write love poems. I think I would make more money if I did, but I'm a poet and we never do what we're supposed to do, so that's why we don't have a whole lot of money. But the closest thing I ever came close to writing a love poem was a poem about Rebecca fire breathing. Now, I actually never got to hear or see Rebecca fire breathe. She had hung up her suspenders before she moved to Bowling Green, Kentucky. And all of us would be like, "Oh, come on, man, please. Like, just do it for us one time." But, you know, she never did. She had given it up. But what I also learned about Rebecca is that she used to write prolifically, poetry all the time, but then she would take her poems and then put them in a drawer and not show anybody. And that just broke my heart, because there I am at this restaurant and I'm writing poems on the back of tickets, and I'm just trying to share my work with anybody that will listen. Like my tables, the kitchen staff, Jose the dishwasher. I'm trying to like share it with everyone. And if you are a writer out there and you write, I hope that you share your poems with a spouse or with a friend or with a parent or the internet. You can share your poems with them too. And I thought that if Rebecca just shared her poetry with people, then she would become a fire breather again, metaphorically. So I wrote a poem about that. It was during Rebecca's going away party. We hosted a poetry event for her. And I was really nervous. I didn't know what she was going to think about my poem. And I nervously stepped up to the mic and I said, "Rebecca said she once was a fire breather. And said she used to dance in the desert, twirling torches to scorch the sand. Back when she held heat in calloused hands to channel a more primordial creature, a fire breather, who once slung flicks of flames that licked her face like the devil's tongue. She hurled whirling light like a hymnal, lifting the embers up to the edge of existence, scraping against God's singed skin. While Becca's blaze swirled like curling fingers, beckoning the wind with burnt ash that smeared black across facial features. Fire breather who once stirred her soul like hot coals. Inside her lungs, the light brewed into birth, like the first word forming on an infant's tongue. Searing heat stung her teeth while lamp oil boiled inside her throat. Her breath burned like coiled rope on wrists as she hissed out streams of smoke, spewing bursts of flames the same hue as the setting sun. So I asked her, please, Rebecca, breathe fire for me. Now she said she quit. Decided to live her life with an unlit wick. Sick of the smell of burnt asbestos, had panic attacks at the thought of blowback. Besides, the lamp oil leached at her teeth, left caramel-colored streaks across the enamel. But she said her fire-breathing days are through. Now the memory remains as a faded tattoo. So today, her desert dance exists as a picture on the refrigerator, along with other moments she's captured in a jar. Play with fire bumper stickers stuck on the trunk of her car. Melted sandals, collected candles, her red suspenders slung across her living room mantle. So her pyre turned internal, burning holes like halos in the pages of her journal. Her flame became fickle. Fire storms trickled into a drizzle as she scribbled words on the wrinkled pages. She scratched scorching sonnets in secret. Her pen spewed a personal inferno, spurning heat on sheets of paper. And once again, her calloused hands held fire, but she never desired to breathe for other people. So I asked her, please, Rebecca, speak heat to me. And with a little nudge, she trudged up to that stage, her eyes splitting like an ill-lit candle, and her lips quivered at first, but as she began to speak, flames burst out from between her teeth. With the push, she pushed out streams of smoke and belched out fireballs from the depths of her throat. The room snapped like the sound of burning timber as she spoke in cinders to the crowd. She relit her fire like lamp oil inside her, rekindling a flame that made foreheads perspire. And when her desert dance was done, she walked away from the stage, her soot-covered hands still clutching onto her page. She said, breathing out loud was something that I once hated. But y'all, she just spoke heat so hot, my tears evaporated. I said, Rebecca, please promise me you'll play with flames wherever you stay. Let your inferno burn, girl, for everybody to see. Come on, Rebecca. Thank you for breathing for me. And I did not know how she was going to respond to that poem, but my favorite part of that performance is I just looked out into the audience, and there she was, melting like blue cheese butter on the top of a ribeye steak. And when I got done with the poem, we walked towards each other and just embraced, and like 200 people cheered, and it was the closest I've ever been to her. And she left a couple of days later to move to Asheville, North Carolina. And I stayed on for a couple years at the restaurant and just trying to write my poems, trying to get my name out there. And eventually I got to leave to become a professional poet and go to grad school and achieve my dream of becoming an educator. And the last time I ever got to see Rebecca, I was on tour at a poetry venue in Greenville, South Carolina, and she drove down to see me. And after my event, we just walked out in this strange town, this downtown area with cobblestones and streetlights, and I don't think that we held hands, but when I closed my eyes, we did. And then I gave her a hug goodbye just like that night. And we talked to each other all the time. I just talked to her last night, and it made my heart swoon. Sometimes we disappear for a couple of months, but we always come back into each other's lives, talking about the boring people that we're dating and the love that we're not finding, and hopefully we can have a better career and don't have to smell like hickory all the time. And I don't know when I'm going to see Rebecca again. It might be in Chattanooga or in the Appalachian Mountains someplace, but until that time comes, I'm just really happy when I get to hear her breathing on the other end of that phone receiver.